Hi, I'm Phil Reed, and today I'm going to show you the completed solo player's companion for Shadowdark. This is a 320-page book. I am through the writing, layout, PDF review stage. I'm getting ready to move into the print on demand stage. But before I do, I thought I'd give you a quick look, and just to make things maybe a little bit easier, I'll also be referencing the Solo Tools Expanded book that I wrote earlier this year, just to give you an idea of what's different between the two titles. We've got our table of contents, of course, we've got bookmarks for everything. The introduction this time around is quite short. In the previous book, the introduction took a few pages because I dropped in an entire how to use this with exploring the dungeons and what to do. And you also have the I need another. I did not include either of those here, but there are other tools that will help in place of those. We move directly into tools for adventure. This is the solo player's companion, and this is Solo Tools Expanded. So they both have a tools for adventure section, but the details are different. For example, in the Solo Player's Companion, I added more prompts. This was at the request of several people. When I wrote Solo Tools Expanded, I didn't even consider adding more prompts because I thought everyone had enough. I was clearly wrong, so here are some more prompt tables for you. I've also added the Solo Starters section, which gives you 5 different options for how you might start an adventure. The first one, for example, you are the sole survivor of a failed expedition into a nearby dungeon. You start with a single PC and must find like-minded companions before returning to the dungeon to avenge your fallen comrades. So with this one, rather than starting with 4 characters as you normally would for Shadowdark, create 1 character and then start exploring the world and slowly build your party in that way. From there, we have another adventure inspiration section with a generator and site names. Again, if I go back to Solo Tools Expanded, you'll see here we've got some adventure generators and some site names. The content between the 2 books is different, so all Solo Player's Companion does, if you already have the Solo Tools Expanded, is give you more options here. From there, we have another alternate adventure generator. There is one of these in the Solo Tools Expanded as well. And the way it works is you will roll on each of these tables and then slowly build your adventure idea from that. So, for example, the text here says when you, and the result is a 16. So, when you collect the bounty for killing a chimera in the sewers, and then you are approached by, and the results are 12 and 23 in the example, you are approached by a bald elf who is a famous actor. From there, we're going to move on to they offer you, and the result for the example is a 13. So they offer you the journal of their dead father, who was a talented mage. After that, we're going to go to if you, and then that's an action target. There's 2 rolls on that table, so we're going to jump to that. The results in the example are 4 and 17. So if you ambush an evil night hag living in the forest. After that, there's an unfortunately. So this is something that may be going on that's going to cause you some delays or problems. And our example is 13. So unfortunately, a circus accidentally lets 2d4 owlbears loose in the city. Now, the cool thing about this, if you have Solo Tools Expanded, which is here, you can actually mix and match between these. So I might start in Solo Tools Expanded and say, when you, and I'll roll, say I get a 13, when you lead your horse to the city stables, and then I will jump to Solo Player's Companion, you are approached by, we'll say, a half-orc man who is a skilled illusionist. We'll jump back to Solo Tools Expanded. They offer you a favor, which you may call in whenever you wish. Moving back, if you mutilate the owner of a shop of magical curios. That's a pretty nasty thing if you do. Then, unfortunately, a guild of assassins has taken an interest in the target. So what I'm trying to show you here is with Solo Tools Expanded and the Solo Player's Companion, these adventure generators can become just bigger. Like there are so many more options when you combine those 2 together. And then additionally, in the Solo Player's Companion, I added these smaller versions. There's 4 of these. So it's at the tavern you meet, you roll a d10, we'll say 7 a wizard, who is offering 5 employment as their bodyguard. And then on the next table, if you, we'll say we roll a 6 frighten, and then you have a target mage who is reading a forbidden book. And then unfortunately, so as you can see, this is built exactly the same way as those other adventure generators. There's just smaller, there's not as many entries basically, and it's all 2-page spreads, and there's 4 of those in total. And there is not something like that in Solo Tools Expanded. It only has the one larger adventure generator, not the smaller ones here. After that, we move into Urban Adventures, which I'm going to jump back to the Solo Tools Expanded now. You will find also appears there. But again, the contents are different. So in the Solo Player's Companion, our Urban Adventures starts with D20 settlement events. So these are things that might be happening to a town, city, village, whatever you wish, whenever you arrive. And what I've done is included 2 options for each result, so you can pick one. And after that, we have other possible events. This is just a smaller table of prompts to get you going. We have D20 merchants, and this is 20 different merchants you may meet. So you might meet Wallace Darrington. He secretly deals in deadly poisons. Then we move to the D100 Marketplace Street Cries. This I had a lot of fun writing. Think of it as combination rumor, encounter, adventure hook table, and there are 100 entries throughout this. So, for example, you might roll an 82. Don't wear those old trousers. We have all sizes and styles available at prices so low you'll think we're mad. So maybe you need to buy some new pants. From there, we've got guards needed. You there, you look like you're good with a sword. Care to make some extra coin as a bodyguard? So with result 82, we're talking about pants. And then result 92, you're actually going to get a job offer. Then there's a section here giving some suggestions how to use the street cries. After that, we have more tavern generators. If we jump over to Solo Tools Expanded, we'll see we also have tavern generators there. We have a stranger in the corner in Solo Tools Expanded, but I also added the same stranger in the corner, but every entry is different. In Solo Player's Companion, we also have Road to Scryfall, which is a small dice game you might play at the tavern, and it's got the rules to just play it at your table. After that, we have another shop generator, and then we have D12 Market Stalls, which is exactly what it sounds like, 12 random stalls you might find in a city, which leads us into the Wilderness Adventures section. And for this one, we start out with D10 visual points of interest. Think of these as the points of interest tables that you can find in the Shadowdark core rules and in the Solo Tools Expanded, except this time around, there's an illustration for each one, and there's a lot more information on what's going on, because in Solo Tools Expanded in the core book, for example, you just get a location and a short little development. I did 10 of these visual points of interest. Then we have a settlement names table, so this will help you name a place. And after that, we've got bumps in the night, which is a D20 table of things you might hear when you're out in the dark, and who knows what it is. After that, so this is another points of interest table, but this one is along the same lines as what you find in the core rules and Solo Tools Expanded. From there, we move to Serpent's Tooth. This is a town that you can drop into your campaign in any way you wish. If you're starting a new campaign, you could use this as your starting point. I have included the map, and then you've got descriptions of the different locations that are keyed on the map. And again, this is all for you to change, do whatever you wish. I have no plans to go back and mess with Serpent's Tooth, but I actually do have some ideas for adventures in this area. So you might see me publish a couple of adventures in the future that connect to this, but no promises. And then from there, we move into this wilderness generator. There is not one of these in Solo Tools Expanded. It's not the core. This is a way to take a deck of playing cards, find yourself a starting point, and then also find a destination, what you're trying to find, what you're searching for, and then a threat for the area using the kings. So you're going to pull out the jokers, you're going to pull out the kings, and you're going to use the joker to set the center of the table. And then you will draw cards and be able to lay out this grid of 5 by 5 and basically treat it like a hex crawl. When you move from one card to the next, flip the next card over. And from there, we move into descriptions, all of the cards in the deck. So every single card that is not a king or a joker appears here with a short description of what it is, the danger level and terrain in case you want to use other tools for random encounters, who or what you found there, and a random encounters section. And that is for all of these cards, which means this system alone is going to generate more variety in encounters and locations than I'm willing to do the math on. I'm sure someone out there can do it and tell us how many different results we could get. But after that, we move into the dungeon adventures. Now, in Solo Tools Expanded, the Wilderness Adventures section includes weather, it includes more encounter tables, and it includes 2 hex crawls, which are also described just like the town is in the Solo Player's Companion. This is the second hex crawl here. Then we get 3 villages, which again are described. And after that, we move to Dungeon Adventures. So between the Solo Tools Expanded and the Solo Player's Companion, you're going to have 2 hex crawls, 3 villages, and a town all described and ready for your campaigns. Dungeon Adventures, I have a D20 dungeon rooms, kind of similar to the visual points of interest from earlier in the Solo Player's Companion, with illustration, description of what's going on, and a random encounter table. And there are 20 of these, and you can just mix and match them, use them any way you wish, combine with something else. Doesn't matter. It's yours. Make it fit your game session is the most important thing. Then we have the listening at the door table, which is a D100 table of what you might hear through the door. And these are intended to give you a little bit of a narrative push when you're trying to decide, okay, what happens next? After that, we have a dungeon dressing table. You've seen these before. They're always handy. More dungeon encounters, always handy. We have some very simple trap ideas here. And then we move into these narrative dungeon traps that have a bit more of a story behind them and are designed in such a way that hopefully it'll make your solo encounters with traps just a little more interesting than randomly rolling and just finding something on a table. This has more depth to it. And you've got door traps, floor traps, passage traps, stair traps, and wall traps. Then we get another table of dungeon dwellers, which you've seen these before, super useful, which leads us to the monsters and NPCs section. Now, if we go to Solo Tools Expanded, we get dungeon name ideas, we get a background idea, we get some dungeon room information, more details, dungeon sounds, which are similar to what you hear through the door, but far more concise without as much hook built into it. Dungeon lighting, dungeon smells. We get this dungeon entrances table, which gives you a starting point. We get all of these chamber descriptions to, again, help you flesh out the dungeon while you're playing. Secret door table. We get the random dungeon maps, which is roll a d8 to select a starting point and then roll d66 as many times as you like to add more bits to the dungeon you are creating. After that, we get some more dungeon encounters, and it gets us to monsters and NPCs. Moving back to the Solo Player's Companion, in the Monsters and NPCs section, we find NPC demeanor table, which this is actually something I've toyed with multiple times over the years, but have just never gone anywhere with it. So it feels really good for me to get this finally out into the public. I think it's a really fun way to just add a little bit of character to your NPCs. Then we get NPC names and faces, which if you've seen Solo Tools Expanded, you will remember that there is an NPC names and faces table. The two are different. So if you have both books, then your next solo session, you have a total of 72 different NPC names and faces just ready for you to use in any way you wish. Then we get our during your journey, you may meet. This is a D120 table with 20 different NPCs you might meet on the road. And just each one is essentially an adventure hook waiting for your imagination to turn it into a really fun story. We have a random townsfolk table, which you run into a guy, this is what they are under profession, and then destination is where they're going. You get to fill in all the gaps because this is another solo tool that's just designed to get you moving in the right direction. After that, we have monster encounter tables by terrain type, and each one is a D20 table, and the terrain types match those found in the Shadowdark core rules under the various encounter tables that you can find there, which leads us to treasures, mundane, and magical. If we go back to Solo Tools Expanded, the monsters and NPCs has the NPC names and faces, monster generator, another making it weird table, which is sort of table you find in the core book. And then we have a monsters by level. This is a reference for, oh, I need a level 8 monster. You can either pick one, roll however you wish, and it's not just core book monsters listed here, but also the monsters from the Monster Monday, the Unnatural Selection third-party book, and the GM's Companion for Shadowdark third-party book. So you've got a lot of monsters listed here, which for us leads to treasures, mundane, and magical. Moving back to the Solo Player's Companion, this section here, we get these treasure tables, and I added 2 items in here that are broken up into pieces. So you might slowly assemble all the parts, and there's some information at the bottom here for what to do when that happens. We have the books section here, which just gives you some tools to generate books you might find in the dungeon. We get a visual treasure table, which roll 3d6, or roll 3d8. And what did you find? Maybe you found a book. You found a book. What is it? Well, jump back to this table and you can determine what it is. From there, we get magic items by type, which is, again, similar to the monsters list from the Solo Tools Expanded, but this time it is magic items. And it includes not only magic items from the core rules, but Unnatural Selection and the GM's Companion for Shadowdark, but also the magic items that are included in here. And the entire book comes in at 320 pages, which when we compare it to the Solo Tools Expanded, that book comes in 176 pages. So the Solo Player's Companion is packed. It's loaded with tools that are intended to be used right there at the table as you are playing, but that does not stop you or a game master for a larger campaign from taking these and using these to plan encounters, build an adventure, whatever you wish. Both the Solo Player's Companion and the Solo Tools Expanded book are available now at DriveThruRPG in PDF. The Solo Tools Expanded book is also available in print on demand, where the Solo Player's Companion is just now starting to enter the print on demand test. I'm just doing another review through everything. Like as we were going through this now, I spotted an area where something should be bold that wasn't. All that said, both books are in PDF. One is in print on demand. The other will be coming in print on demand. I hope you found this look at the two useful, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.